Hey guys, what is up? I've got to show you this first. We're going to talk about communism, okay? Communism and this new direction that everything seems to be going in the past few days. Coordinated effort, perhaps. Let me first show you this, though. It's always a good day when mail arrives. Here are all new Alterna comics, and you'll see Downcast #1 is among them. Holy cow, this is so cool. I'm really excited to get my copies, and when I get them, I will show them off, I guess. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So thank you. Also, I want to show you, because we're going to talk about communism, there's one communism I would say that it's okay to look at, and that would be not Daredevil. This is done by Commie Mark, and spoiler alert, he's not really a communist. But yeah, really funny guy, and I've enjoyed his comics in the past, so check that one out. It's ending soon, I believe. All right, so into the story. Mike S. Miller posted this: glad DC is condemning all the woke SJWs out there who are trying to cancel Asianness by telling us we're white. Wow, that's quite an accusation. Well, let's look into this a little bit. DC Comics says, we're joining with our Warner Media families to stand with the AAPI community. This is a new word for me. That's a new acronym. I'm not familiar with it. I confuse it with AARP. Turns out it stands for Asian and Pacific Islander, I suppose. Again, this kind of gets into the same vein of who are you not including by trying to be so inclusive. And so anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, the community, in condemning the recent rise in anti-Asian hate crimes, as well as all racist acts. For more resources, visit Stop AAPI Hate. Stop Asian Hate. Stop AAPI Hate. I'm so confused because for a while there, we've all been led to believe that Asians didn't count. And it's been by universities. It's been by major corporations. Why all of a sudden has there been a big shift? Well, this is interesting. Let me read the report here, the statement by DC Comics. It says, hate has no home here. Our stories wouldn't exist without diverse voices and perspectives. Okay, I agree with that. We condemn racism and xenophobia in all its forms. Okay, I think the vast majority of people do. All right. Including the rise of anti-Asian hate crimes in recent weeks and since the COVID-19 pandemic began. And a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes. Now, I maybe heard about I didn't hear about straight up hate crimes, but I did hear about some anti-Asian sentiment at the beginning of the pandemic, according to the news anyway. But what recently has happened? Well, we'll look into that. They continue, we stand in solidarity with the Asian community as well as our family of Asian American and Pacific Islander colleagues, fans, and storytellers now and always. For more resources, stopaapihate.org. This gets into a very complicated area because what at face value looks not disagreeable at all. And again, I'm going to make this very clear. I don't disagree with the statement here. What I disagree with, what is going on, is that this is a smoke screening, actual anti-Asian, actual problems of racism, direct racism problems. Okay? And we'll get into that. So I looked at the rise in Asian hate crimes. Why would DC Comics be here? Found this a bit of a clip here. Let's watch this.
What we want to do is to make our elderly feel safe. You know, there are a lot are out and about right now because of the Chinese New Year and Lunar New Year. And we just want to make them feel safe.
This comes after there have been more than 24 attacks and robberies in Oakland and San Francisco in the months prior. In late January, an 84-year-old San Francisco man who had immigrated from Thailand was killed after he was shoved on his morning walk.
Okay, so killed, random acts of violence on the street. We've seen a few of this, a few things like this that will come up almost like they're a fad or something. I don't get it. It's terrible. You are a terrible, awful person if you do this kind of thing. The good news is the vast majority of people don't. It's a couple. I don't know what their motivation is. And that's what it comes down to, is motivation is everything here. Are they doing it because they're random jerks, or they're just wanting to rob somebody, or are they doing it because they're racist? In either case, it's just a terrible thing to do. Why would you do that? I feel really, terrible for anyone that has suffered from this, just like the punching games, just like when was it, maybe a year or two ago, that it became a trend that people are punching Hasidic Jews in New York. Like, why is this happening? I'm not sure. Let's continue on and see what the news has to say about it.
Attacks like these have continued despite President Biden's executive action banning the federal government from employing inflammatory and xenophobic language like China plague and Kung flu.
Okay, now this has changed completely. Okay, so what they're trying to do is draw a distinction between criticism of China to actual violence and hate crimes on the street, as if these are linked. So if these are linked, here's the problem. You cannot criticize China. China is a country. It is a problem. And if you cared about racism, why would you not care about China erasing black characters from major movies? Disney, they own Marvel Comics. They would erase John Boyega because he's black. That they minimized him. There he is. He's very small. They did that because of racism. If you cared about racism, you would be critical of China. And when I say China, I mean the government, not individual people. So here's the thing. Stop pointing at Asian Americas to downplay racism at universities. There's constant case making from the far left on trying to make sure that Asians don't count as minorities. This has been going on for years. School district decides Asians aren't student of color. Here we go again. How Asians became white. Asians are now white. Don't believe me? Then they go through all the reporting. MSNBC. We've seen this stuff. Leaked China files show internment camps are ruled by secrecy and spying. Where are these internment camps? These are in China. If you can, not only that, they're based on racism and also, I mean, primarily I think religion. I'm not really sure on all the specifics, but again, if you cannot criticize China, the government, for what they are doing, then you can't really stand up against racism. You have to be able to draw the distinction. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden passes on how the government is going to refer to China. This has everything to do with making the Chinese government happy, so that you can continue forward. Now, I'm going to parse that out with actual violence. Again, the things that I was seeing around for the Lunar New Year, they're saying clearly that's despicable. But the question is, does that have to do with people criticizing China, or does it have to do with just terrible people on the streets? Here's China says it has a zero tolerance policy for racism, but discrimination toward Africans goes back decades. Can you criticize China without being racist? You better be able to, because China is a country. It is not a race. From COVID to blackface on TV, China's racism problem went. How long ago was this? Just recently, 2021. China has a racism problem. The country, okay? If all of the things, hate crimes and so forth, if you have a problem with that, you should be supporting criticizing China. Okay, Chinese TV Lunar New Year features blackface performances. All of the stuff that people get so hyper about here in the States, that it happens or that it might happen somewhere, all of the hyperbole that is used accurately defines what actually happens sometimes in China. If you cannot criticize China, you can't stand up and say that you're against racism. You have to be able to draw the distinction. So to be fair here, I'm not necessarily pointing the finger at DC Comics specifically, that they are supporting China at the same time while they're saying they're against hate crimes and against all racism. I have not seen specific examples that really point clearly, but it's obvious that Hollywood and clearly every major movie producer out there is very concerned with what China, the government, not the people, the government thinks of their properties so that they can show them in China without getting in trouble. Okay? This is a fact. I would love to hear differently. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to know. It's just a little bit more of a difficult topic than I thought. I fumbled my way through it, but hopefully you understand my point and what I mean here. Again, violence is terrible. I don't care why it's happening. Racial violence is terrible, clearly, but you can't pretend and virtue signal unless you're willing to also criticize the Chinese government. You can't protect them while also condemning racism. That is hypocrisy. Thanks very much, and I will see you in the next video.